I think it's an important process to try to think about reality from God's perspective. Try to think about God's reality. And if you try to do that, I think you can come to some very many beautiful conclusions. So, what do we know about God? If God exists, we're going to say that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving. There's inherited contradictions in the idea that God is all-powerful and all-loving and all-knowing, because evil exists in the world. If God was all-powerful, he could stop it. Is he able to make a rock he can't lift? So he either can make the rock or he can't lift it. It's an automatic contradiction. Can he make dice when he rolls them that God doesn't know what's going to come up? So he's either all-knowing and he always knows whatever dice roll is going to be, or he doesn't, and so, but if he doesn't know, then he's not all-powerful. He can't make dice where he doesn't know. So these inherited contradictions are well known. The best way to fix them is just to say that God knows all that can be known, can do all that can be done, and is still nevertheless all-loving despite the evil in the world. And then you look for the implications of that logical conclusion. The implications of these logical conclusions. So let's take them in turn. Let's consider all the creations that God can make. Think about the movie Across the Spideyverse, right? Think about all the creations God can make. There exists a list of creations in that group where he doesn't know what the futures are going to be, what the future's going to be. Within that list, there could be creations where he knows everything's going to happen except one thing. And then there could be, he knows everything's going to happen except some things. And then there could be ones where he doesn't know what's going to happen ever. Doesn't know what's going to happen in that reality at all. Then, of all those universes, I'm going to call them emergent universes because I'm thinking about my own universe, the Big Bang Theory, how 13.8 billion years, we developed and all that. Consider all the emergent universes that God is able to make and put at the top of the list the ones he likes best. And at the bottom of the list would be ones that he likes least. And probably he's just withheld time from many of them because he doesn't even want to watch them flower out. These emergent universes are different than ones where God has ever reached in and changed them in any way, shape, or form. These are the list of all the worlds that are flowering outwards through time and becoming what they're becoming, where God has never, not once, interfered in its development. Are there universes where God has interfered in their development? Sure. Whatever. God can do whatever he wants. I don't know. I live in the world that I live in. Now, I'm going to hold as a postulate that the world I live in is an emergent universe where God has never communicated to anyone and has never manipulated or changed anything in its flowering of development. Now, I hold that as a postulate. I can't prove it. But I also don't see anything in science, mathematics, to contradict it. Well, God certainly communicated to Jesus or communicated to us through the Bible. Well, my evidence that that's not true is that there's, for over 1,000 years, that people are saying that God has communicated to Muhammad, in the Quran, and that book is still going strong, and all these different variants of Christianity and Islam and other religions. Is my evidence that God has never communicated to anyone. He's watching. And you can sit there and you can believe in lies, and you can pass those lies on to your children. Lies are too strong a word. Plus, pass these ideas off to your children for multiple generations for 1,000 years, and God's going to go ahead and let you do that. It's not going to stop you. Okay. So there's my evidence for the idea that we live in an emergent universe that God has made. It's flowering itself out through time, the expansion of space and all that, Big Bang Theory, physics. And then comes an inevitable question about evil. So where's that come from? Well, evidently, God has chosen not to turn this world off. God has chosen not to stop this world from progressing. And so whatever evil has happened in this world, as regrettable as it is, as much as God watched it, and I suppose wished it didn't happen, he had to make a choice. Does he reach in and manipulate this world, fundamentally changing it from a universe where he never touches it, watches the flowers, I can't wait to see what happens, to one where he does every now and then touch it and pushes it in a given direction? So let's say, he's never done that. I'd say that the only choice he has for this world is to either turn it on or off. He lets it keep playing, and something evil happens, but there's lots of other good things that happen. People die, and then he can take that person and put them in a different place and communicate with them and be like, hey man, what'd you think about that world? Because this universe could be so complex that it might even be beyond an all-knowing being's ability to judge correctly. Like, I don't know how I feel about this world. Look how confusing and complex and deep, and look at all the possibilities that can happen in it. So that explains the evil. It's right there. You go back 5 billion years, God, who cannot be outside of time because he made a universe where he's not outside of time. The idea that God is time, or time is God's power pushing the world into existence. You go back 5 billion years ago, who's to say that God even knew humanity was going to come into existence? He didn't even know we were going to exist. But he's watching us and see that we do now. He's like, look at these guys. This is interesting. And so he has to allow the evil that occurs in this world, because if he were to stop it or change it or somehow try to fix it, it would just change this creation completely. It wouldn't be the creation that it was. I mean, certainly it could branch out. It could reach in and stop some kind of evil from occurring in some way. But then in his imagination, God's imagination, he's all-knowing, right? He would still be able to see the two trains of creation playing itself out. One where he changed something and one where he didn't. And if things became so untenable, he could always just turn the world off. And so it's like it's an all or nothing proposition. We live in a seamless, integrated reality that can't be separated, and it's either all or nothing. So I imagine when we die, God is able to, whether he does this or doesn't. I'm going to hold as a postulate that he does do it, that there is an afterlife, because he's all powerful and he can do it that way. And I suppose he's all loving, so he would want to do it. And, he'll sit you down in a different place and be like, hey, would you like to live again? Go back into that world and live again. And if you did, you'd just emerge as a little 4 or 5 year old child looking around going, look at me and look at this. And look, the sky is so blue. and you get to live life again. And then it would be like, and guess what? You don't even get to know that you ever lived before. You just get to live again. Would you like to try it? And I think most of us would say yes to that. The reason why he doesn't shut off the world. So we don't want him to. And that solves the question of theodicy for me, the question of God's all-powerfulness in the light of the evil of the world. You know, he would want to stop the evil in this world, but to stop the evil in this world would be an evil in itself. It would be a worse evil, because we would no longer be responsible for our creation. We would no longer be responsible for trying to make something of this place. We already are, and we're going to do better. So, in light of all this belief about God not knowing the future and our creation being a seamless whole, and that God cannot stop the evil in this world because that would be a more evil thing to do, can I still be a Christian in light of this? And I'll argue, yeah. I mean, a lot of Christians might tell me no. I mean, I guess the Pope would, if he was forced to consider it, might have to excommunicate me, you know. But I can see how we didn't have the mathematical tools and the scientific observations sufficient to sustain and to lend credence to this coherent understanding of reality. Lend credence to this coherent understanding of reality. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have the tools. And something had to explain what was going on. The idea that we had fallen natures and that we're redeemed by Jesus' death on the cross was a brilliant conception, a brilliant religious conception of reality that sustained large portions of humanity for thousands of years. Yeah, I get it. I mean, but, you know, I'm going to hold to the title of being a Christian, yeah, but I'm going to hold to the title of being a renovationist, one who seeks to renovate theology in light of all available evidence. And so, I guess the last thing I'd say is, you know, look at that, like John Conway's Game of Life, 1970. Look at Stephen Wolfram's second TED Talk video from October 2023. These things lend mathematical evidence and logical evidence to this coherent picture of reality. Okay. Love y'all.